Oh, we don't need no fancy words. I mean, we need to practice. We need to rehearse.
I'll tell you what we need. We need some paying gigs. We don't need this messing around, first one patio and then another, and that's ridiculous.
Amen.
We don't got no goddamn band. We don't need to fucking practice with it.
Welcome to the No GD Band podcast. I'm Henry. Ooh, I'm in a time warp. Ooh.
I used to go by... Oh, Chris. You used to be called something different in 1993, didn't
We're
you?
not going there.
What?
We're
in a time warp.
1993? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I was Bill back then.
You were Bill back
I thought you were going to go like 1988 with Tyrell.
Oh, no, God. You still have
I
you have a real mental block with that, don't you?
That really, I think it secretly hurt me a little bit.
Yeah, what was
I
the
think
nickname?
I carry that
I mean,
around as a core wounding of some kind.
Yeah, I was just going to go with your name back then, but
He called me Bald Mole.
that'll never be...
Tyrell, I've never forgotten that shit. That just goes to show you that children are cruel.
They are. Well, in our intro section, we're going to talk about March 26th, 2018. But when we hit the main segment, folks, we're going to go back in time 25 years ago to 1993.
The year what were you doing in 1993?
Probably a lot more alone time with AOL. What's this picture going to be?
Yeah.
I'll check back in an hour.
Remember the first picture we ever got?
Yep. What was it called?
It was here, cut this out. It was called Poopin'.
Poopin'. And the best part about Poopin' was it was part of a series. Once it downloaded after an hour and 15 minutes, it was like Poopin' 1 or Poopin' 2.
But why did we download it? I think it was just sent.
You're right. I think it was sent to us. And we were like, what
Like,
could
why
this...
would we download something called Poopin'?
Well, we were just, I think, like, what on earth could this be? Like, you know, now people would totally understand. But we were intrigued. And when it takes an hour and, 45 minutes to see what Poopin' is...
Line by line.
You get invested in it, and then you're like, okay, I want to see this. But I think it involved somebody's rear end...
Oh, I remember.
A newspaper.
It was a brown piece of paper.
Brown piece of
Like
paper.
a paper bag.
I always thought it was a newspaper, like that he was making a statement about, like...
I'm glad you didn't remember that.
I'm glad the internet has gotten better. Speaking of pooping, how about the Stormy Daniels interview?
Speaking of pooping, was there really anything said we didn't know? The threat, I guess. We didn't know about the threats to her.
Did you know about the bend over, you've been a bad boy, and I'm going to spank you with your own magazine?
I heard something about that, yeah. She was telling it with like this weird little smirk about it. I didn't like that part of it. Mostly because it seems like she's just doing it for some sort of salacious like bit to tell. She presented it like, I'm not Me Too. This was all consensual and I agreed to everything.
Yeah, I felt sad for her, actually.
I don't know if I felt sad.
Well, it made me think of that thing where she came out of the bathroom and she said, oh my God, I know what I'm in for and I deserve,
which is
almost like I deserve this.
And that puts the lie to what she said.
No.
It's like she said that it was consensual, but
I
she
think
didn't want to do it.
No, I don't think it put, to me, it didn't put a lot of consensual. It put me back in that story from the New York Times. There are women that you think you had a great time with, and they go home and they thought, I didn't want to do this at the last minute, but there's a power dynamic here. I guess I need to go through with this, and
yeah, I felt that same thing. But it's because she's a porn star.
Right, because I don't think a lot of myself.
This is what's expected of me.
So I put myself here, so I guess I have to do it. I thought that was sad. I didn't think to me that made it out like, oh, she's a lying bitch.
I never said that.
And in fact, anybody, even, I can't imagine anyone, even Trump supporters, saying that he didn't have sex with her. Like, what part of what that guy has done in his lifetime would make you think he hasn't? Or he wouldn't do that? The only question I have is, does anybody care at this point? Like, if you're really shocked by this, I mean, where have you been living? In a hole?
They don't care.
Right.
It's not important.
Right. So
furthermore, it was 10 years ago. It's ancient history, Chris.
But the part that really bothered me was that she said he told her that she reminded him
of his daughter.
Of his daughter.
Ugh. Didn't you just go, ugh, like that? Kind of cringe.
if you told somebody that they reminded you of their daughter, and then 5 minutes later they go in the bathroom and come out and you're naked and ready to do it, that seems weird to me. Does it seem weird to you?
Yeah, it seems weird to me, but the whole thing sounds weird to me. Nothing's beyond the pale of this guy.
The one thing I don't think they have a DVD or a CD with pictures and stuff.
Do you think that she specifically has been told not to answer that to generate interest about her story?
Well, and to generate fear on the other side that if you don't make a deal with us or back off, we're going to put the dick pics out. I don't think the first night, a guy that's cautious enough to have an alias. I mean, if the guy has an alias, like all of the documents have his Dirk Diggler alias on there, and nobody's like, does that not prove to you that he's doing some dastardly shit? The guy has a legal alias. He has a legal alias. Like, I need an alias to do shit.
A side letter. I've never even heard of that. A side letter.
And let's go one step further, or let's step back. This is the President of the United States of America.
It's embarrassing as hell.
It's awful.
I don't even know what to tell. I don't know what to tell you. I can't even, like, when you pull up your web browser at work, and you look at the news, and there's like porn stuff on it. You know, I'm like, this is the new normal.
This is the news.
In the old days, they'd be like, that's not safe for work.
Right.
Talking about porn on your work.
I have to. It's current.
It's
current
the current
news.
events.
Yeah.
And there she is.
Yeah, and also we have to talk about this march.
Yeah.
that
Did you
took
see
place.
those pictures, man?
I did.
I know you poo-poo it, but I mean, come on.
No,
There's
I
no
actually
way
so
that people can't take note of it.
You know, I was really moved by some of those young people's speeches. The one girl that threw up in the middle of her speech.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I just thought that was amazing that she was able to keep going. And like I was trying to think of what I was like in 8th or 9th grade if I was standing in front of almost a million people and more on television.
How old was she?
I
didn't
think she
catch
was
that.
an 8th or 9th grader, but she was giving an impassioned speech and she was so worked up and of course her nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And she just turned her back to the podium and they cut the camera away and went to the crowd for a few minutes. And I thought, wow, her speech was kind of cut short. And then she got right back up there and said, I just threw up in front of a million people and I feel great.
That's great.
And then she just went on, man.
That's
and
great.
I was like,
There's something about the sort of unedited content of what they say. Sometimes it's awkward.
yes.
Sometimes it doesn't come out right. Sometimes it's not perfectly placed in the speech. You know, it's dramatic.
And it was so neat to see the naked idealism on display. Like all of these people really believe they're going to change the world, and it's kind of refreshing to see that. And the Emma Gonzalez speech, which was very short. And then she stood there for over 4.5 minutes silently, which 4.5 minutes of silence on national TV is awkward. I loved it. I thought that was the perfect thing to do.
You got a chance to hear the crowd noise.
The crowd didn't know what to do. Sometimes they started chanting her name, and they get quiet again, and they didn't know if they were supposed to. You know, it really made people uncomfortable and made people think. Super powerful, and then I guess super disappointing today to read somebody, an adult, actually attacking her personally. This Jesse Hughes guy from
Eagles of Death Metal,
which, if you don't know, was the band that was the American band that was at the Bataclan. I can't speak French.
I always said Bataclan, but it's probably wrong.
I've heard French people say it, and they say it so beautifully.
You remember that documentary about him? You know,
yes.
The guy's a little tweaky anyway, right? You get he's sort of a spiky individual whose opinions can probably change on a dime, but has no problem just spouting off whatever's on the top of his head. He said stupid shit about shooting at the Bataclan being an inside job.
So here's some of his Instagram. He had a picture of Emma Gonzalez. And his Instagram comment was, "Behold, the awful face of treason, survivor of nothing, lover of treason. Enjoy your little moment. It's about to end. Hashtag stupidity. Hashtag lover of Satan. Hashtag Second Amendment." This is like a teenage girl who did live through, I would think, one of the most terrifying things that could be lived through. as well as he did. How can he not have empathy for somebody that lived through this? Further on, he goes on to like her and her Parkland, the other fellow students were just using the shooting to get a day off from school, even though the parade was on a Saturday. Just really stupid shit.
He's just an asshole.
And then just to throw in some more, he denigrated homosexuals and...
Oh, did he?
Yes, he threw in some good old-fashioned hate speech.
I don't know why anybody'd want to listen to that guy and what he has to say anyway. He's textbook sort of frat rock and roll type guy. You know?
Right. Well, I watched the documentary about, and it's really riveting, about what happened to him and the band at the concert in Paris. And I have a theory about him. I watched that, and
What's that?
I think he likes to make these big attention-getting pronouncements, and then his big buddy Josh Homme will come along and kind of like love on him and fix him and apologize for it, and he gets all this attention because he's such a tortured soul, and then he goes out and does it again. And it reminded me of the Wiener documentary, where I think Wiener is such an attention whore. Everyone's like, how could Wiener keep sending dick pics over and over, even when it like cost him his... he started running a third time after the whole scandal and was sending dick pics during that race and got caught again. Mm-hmm. He's addicted to being caught and the attention because it's all about him. And it's a strange psychology.
Well, like, what's the connection to Jesse Hughes? You think
he does the same thing? He loves to make these crazy, and then he's going to make these big apologies.
Oh yeah, he's already said
because everyone's attention now, on the cover of Pitchfork, he's on Pitchfork now, which he can't get on with his band. So you know what I mean? Like, he loves the whole redemption.
He said, I'm going to start my own Instagram account to talk about my political stuff and not this. I'm just for the rock and roll number one. That just speaks to me of just frat boy horse shit.
Anyway, we wasted more time on that guy than we should have.
He's going to lose. He's not as if he deserved my fucking attention to begin with. But,
right. And so before we go to the whiskey
segment... But he ain't
segment,
the only one, and we'll talk about him later.
I know. Before we go to the whiskey segment, Henry, you are going on spring break vacation next week, right?
Yes, I am. I'll be on spring break going to Florida, but before I do that, I'm going to stop off in Oak Island, where a friend of yours is.
Right.
And we got into a discussion about gun control and all that. Very respectful, actually, discussion about it. And I think that's what sort of attracted me to having a conversation with him. But I'm going to go meet him for a beer down there in Oak Island.
So Henry is actually going to take action on a Facebook comment back and forth with somebody and said, you know what, let's meet face to face and see if we can work this out.
Or let's talk about it. Because I'm interested to know what he has to say. I know he owns guns. Maybe even show me a gun. I don't know.
I can't wait to hear how this goes. But Henry's going to attempt to record it. If we get anything good, we'll let you know. And at least we'll give you a heads up on how it went. If any of you out there have a fantasy about meeting up with one of your
podcast
Facebook trolls or podcast idols, either one, this is what it's going to be like.
Right.
So
I just happened to know that he was at Oak Island. It's like, this is perfect timing.
Well, Henry will report back to us. But Henry, let's pour some whiskey.
Okay.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. No, don't ask why. For we must find the next whiskey bar. Or if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die.
All right, Henry, I went and bought this whiskey tonight. Let us know what it is here.
This week it is High West Whiskey, American Prairie Bourbon. Not to be confused with another kind of bourbon from another place. American Prairie Bourbon.
I like how you said not to be confused with any other place. It's American Prairie Bourbon.
And they're passionate about the American West's natural beauty.
Yeah, so I bought this because I wanted to give blended whiskeys another try, because one of our listeners said I gave blended a bad name when we did the Four Roses, but I'm on first blush here, I'm not too impressed with the High West.
This is our second attempt at blended whiskey.
I'm not digging it.
And it tastes a little bit like that other, really. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like I had a sip of it without a little Coca-Cola, and it's
medicinal.
Yeah, it's like cough medicine or something.
Yeah, so it's not my favorite, but I do want to make another comment, Henry. I want to go back to the topo last week.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't notice this, but so there's a bar in Chapel Hill called Top of the Hill.
Oh, really?
Which is where this comes from. I didn't put it together.
Same bar?
Yeah, they back then they had all of that going on. Top of the Hill is like at the corner of Franklin Street and the main drag, which is Franklin Street, but the main cross street to campus. It's like right at the top of this hill. It's like the corner.
Right.
Like if Carolina wins the national championship in basketball and they close the street down, that's where the bonfire is going to be.
So,
and the Top of the Hill bar sits up on like the 4th floor, looking down on the street, and it is like everything you would hate about
Chapel Hill.
It's so uncollegey. It's like super rich. It's like super expensive. all the guys in there are from fraternities with their dates, and they all are wearing the collar shirts, and they're all pretending that they make $200,000 a year already. Kind of disgusting.
So, but that's who.
But
it comes from.
that's where it comes from. And
Topo the Hill.
I should have brought that. Yeah, I should have brought that up.
It
last
tasted
time.
like Chapel Hill, didn't it?
It tasted like. There you go.
It's good, but it's got this weird little taste. It leaves a bad taste in the back. A little sharp taste in the back, just like Chapel Hill does. Everything's great. You're going to the record store. All that's awesome. And then you run into all these Charleston tuxedos. You're like, eh.
It made me think this, Henry, which is just like Chapel Hill. It starts out good, but then I think, man, I kind of wish I was over in Carborough. But anyway, today it's High West. When we come back for the main segment, folks, we are going to be in March of 1993. It'll be Chris and Bill. Get ready.
Goodbye, Bill.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. No, don't ask why.
All right, Bill Gordon. Welcome back to 1993.
That felt like 1993.
Yeah, Bill.
It was shortly maybe a year or two after I started working that job.
Right.
That I called you on the phone and said I'm changing my name. My world was changing. My worldview was expanding beyond what the person I was.
Oh, for sure.
And I stupidly, as a kid, felt like I needed to, like rock stars or whatever changed their names.
No, I really think it helped you at the time. Because
it did. It helped me delineate that whoever that was, at least psychologically, partition it off in my mind and leave it in the past. And you never really leave it all in the past, but
definitely
try to draw a line in the sand and move from there.
Yes. So I'm still going to call you Henry. Yeah. So we're back in the 90s.
What persuaded you to want to talk about the night?
All of these shows, when we're putting our show outlines together, there's so much heavy news going on right now that I thought, was it always like this? And I just didn't notice. And then I thought, well, what was it like 25 years ago today? What was it like on March 26, 1993? And actually, looking back at that, Henry, well, it's kind of a boring news day. So I thought maybe we ought to just expand this to the early 90s and reminisce about the way things were back then.
A simpler time.
A happy place for us.
A happier time.
It seemed much less pressurized to me, but maybe it's because we were in our early 20s.
The incessant news cycle hadn't come across
true.
our phone anymore.
That's true.
We had just cable TV. We probably had CNN.
We didn't even have cell phones.
MSNBC or Fox or any of that stuff. And we weren't nearly as polarized.
CNN was only watched by people like us when there was something like the first Iraq War. We didn't turn CNN on all the time.
Wasn't the evening news still a real thing?
For sure.
Then
let me set the stage with a few things, and if you want to comment on them.
Sure.
So Bill Clinton was sworn in on January 20th in 1993, 25 years ago. Waco happened in February. So in February, the ATF stormed the Branch Davidian compound. 9 people died in that. 5 Davidians were killed and 4 ATF agents.
Chris, do you remember who set the place on fire?
Yeah,
somebody asked me that today. I'm going to watch that.
It's really interesting. It changed my whole view, which it kind of scares me because I feel
that's
like
a dramatization.
I know,
too,
and
right?
I feel like I can be swayed. But basically, my take on it is the ATF stormed the compound. 4 of them got killed. Mm-hmm. Didn't think that was going to happen, and backed off. Had to back off. And then the FBI came in and took over for the ATF, and it was kind of one of those government like, okay, little boy, ATF, get out of our way. We're taking over.
Right.
Then they couldn't back down, and then they started the propaganda machine, which was all about, which is what I remember of it, like the guy's abusing children, and he's having sex with all the women, and this, that, and the other. And then they finally raided the compound. I think the fire was started by the FBI because what they were doing, they were trying to put non-lethal tear gas into the building and drive the Davidians out. The dramatization movie makes a good point, which I went and looked up. One of the characters says, if you looked at all the times in the past that tear gassing buildings in these type situations happens, like 75% of the time fires get started because the tear gas canisters are explosive.
Oh.
When they go off, they're not just clean. They're just not like smoke bombs. There's actually a spark and a fire. And these Davidians had built this place out of plywood, and it wasn't
up to code.
Yeah, and I mean they were banging holes through the walls to drop this stuff in with tanks.
Right.
So I think the fire was started by the tear gas canisters. I don't think it was started on purpose. If you watch the actual news footage, once the fire started, the whole place went up it went up quick.
Somebody recently said that they thought they caught themselves on fire.
No. That's the government story, and I don't believe that. 76 Davidians died in that fire.
Golly.
And about, I think, in the teens were babies and children.
Jesus.
I don't think babies and children. I don't think they would have lit their own babies and children on fire. It just doesn't. They were not. I think the movie makes a big point that they were not a suicide cult. That was not their goal.
What about and there were survivors, right?
There were survivors, and there was actual survivors from that day. Like there were survivors that stayed until the end, and they based that movie off of one of the survivors' books and this FBI negotiator's book. But you should watch it, Henry. It's worth watching.
Arthur Ashe died of AIDS
in '93. Yes, and that was the big turning point. I don't know if you remember, because he was kind of the first big celebrity non-homosexual or non-drug addict person.
Non-homosexual.
Well, you know what I mean? Like everybody at that point, it was a gay disease. And I think that was part of the stigma of why we never tried to solve it. And then Arthur Ashe died, who was like, oh my God, like he's a non-drug addict, heterosexual.
A blood transfusion he got during bypass surgery. That's right.
The West Memphis 3 murders happened in May of 1993, which I don't know if you've watched all those documentaries.
Yeah, I have. Both of them.
Really fascinating.
Both of them.
Well, there's 3 actually. They put a third one out. They did a third one.
I'm sure I watched that one too.
I'm sure you have, yeah.
But
River Phoenix died in '93, as did Vincent Price.
River Phoenix died in a club, right?
I think he
Viper
died.
Room?
I think he died out front of the Viper Room.
Drugs.
I think he got outside and vomited and choked on his own vomit in front of the Viper Room. My favorite war, the Yugoslavian Bosnian Croat.
Your favorite war? You have a favorite war?
I do have a favorite war. I went back.
Why is that your favorite
war? I think I told you in an earlier episode, I went back and I really studied this one because I've never understood it.
Yeah.
There's like 4 different combatants, but I went back and really deep dove the Yugoslav war and realized the Serbians are pretty much fucking Nazis. And I won't eat at the Serbian restaurant near my house anymore because of it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Why won't you eat at the Serbian restaurant?
Because Serbians are fascists.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The race of Serbians?
Yeah. The ethnic group of Serbians
are Nazis.
Fascists.
Interesting. We need to talk about that.
Yeah, I would like to do. I was thinking of doing an episode on that, but I thought you'd be like, you'd take a snooze on that.
If I knew more about it.
Ken
Burns, get me a documentary on.
We'll deep dive it. I can't wait.
The Bosnian. All right, most popular.
You've got genocide going on during that thing. You've got everything. You've got
everything.
All you need for a good war.
Hey, and these are the guys who recently started poisoning themselves when they were called in front of the Hague, right?
Yes, that's what sparked me going back and saying, I want to know who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. Like, I don't know if you remember Slobodan Milosevic.
That's some 007 shit.
That guy, I thought Milosevic was a good guy. And now I've gone back and looked, and these guys that you're talking about that recently offed themselves, they're war criminals. They're straight up war criminals.
And that's why they poison themselves, is because it's obvious, right?
Yeah, and then the funny thing is, too, like these people at the Hague, obviously they're getting poison smuggled into them. It's almost like they're like, you know what, we want you to kill yourself. And the Hague, I don't understand the Hague either. I need to deep dive the Hague.
It's a cool, I hate to say this, this is a cool name for a court.
I know, but it always makes me think of like the Justice League. Like, is it in a country? What country is the Hague in? And is it like, what jurisdiction is it under? It's just like, oh shit, if you got to go to the Hague, you are just fucked. But they do it in such a nice way, too. They're so humane at The Hague.
Most popular TV show, Frasier.
I love how we went from The Hague and war crimes right into Frasier and Seinfeld.
We've got our main segment has some listed things. These are things that you were interested in. The most popular TV shows, Seinfeld, Frasier, X-Files. NYPD Blue.
I forgot about
Let's be careful out there.
PD Blue. Do you remember when they made a big deal because they showed
up? I'm thinking about Hill Street Blues. Completely different show.
You are. That's the 80s. NYPD Blue, I don't know if you remember, they made a big deal. That was the first time on network TV that they showed a
guy's
butt.
ass.
Yeah, male nudity.
And it was a big fat dude.
Yes, it was.
Dennis, whoever.
Dennis, that's
something.
right.
I remember that.
That was a good one. I listed Roseanne because I thought it was funny because this week, Roseanne is coming back. This week.
Is she coming back this week?
This week.
Word is she's a Trump supporter. Not Barr, but the character, Roseanne McConnell or whatever her name is.
Wouldn't that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
And somehow they're bringing back both the actresses that played the older daughter. Because, you know, they had two different actresses play the older daughter.
I didn't know that.
They're making one some sort of side character.
Let's take bets on whether the show's going to be good or not.
I don't know that I liked that show when it was on.
I didn't like it when it was on.
I didn't either. I like John Goodman, though. I always liked John Goodman.
He's funny.
Do you remember on that show there was a period where he had this like big, huge, crazy hairdo?
No.
Yeah, he had like a big fro kind of thing going. And they never really explained it. I don't know if he was growing it out for a movie role or something, but that was the only time I really watched Roseanne, just to see like Dan would come in with a weird hairdo and you're like, what the fuck? I wrote down what happened at the 65th Academy Awards, which was held on March 29th.
What is the Academy Awards like? That's your big like thing to remember of 1993.
I like movies.
But I mean, who gives a shit? You don't give a shit about the Academy Awards today. Why do you care about them?
I just think it's interesting when you look back with time to see what was given the award. Was it deserved or not? Sure. Well, you know, they never give what they deserve. Well, I thought Unforgiven was great.
Yeah.
Unforgiven won.
Yeah.
Since you don't want to talk about this, I'll just cut right to the chase.
I want to talk about it now. I've already put some thought into it.
I find it amazing that Denzel Washington and Malcolm X, the movie, were not even nominated.
That is interesting. But, you know, let's go to The Crying Game.
I thought it was a great movie.
I bet you if it was today,
The Crying Game would have won. I do too.
I don't think we were ready. As a culture, we weren't ready to have
But did the Crying Game person. But did The Crying Game only get nominated, or did it even enter our consciousness because we weren't ready? Because what I remember about The Crying Game was the reveal that was a dude.
We were revulsed by it.
No, but right in the middle of the movie, when you realize that is a dude, it was kind of like The Sixth Sense, where you're like, oh, shit! Like now, looking back, do you even remember the plot of the fucking movie?
No, I just remember the big...
Right, the big reveal.
I remember Gabriel Byrne throwing up and all that. It was not Gabriel Byrne. It was Stephen Ray, who was the main character.
Oh, okay.
And the Jay Davidson was the transgender.
That's right.
Woman.
The Crying Game was a great movie, but I think The Unforgiven is a great movie too. But I don't know if I think you're right.
I remember it, but I don't know. I bet you if I went back and watched The Unforgiven, I wouldn't like it as much. In fact, that might be true for a lot of these movies. I don't know.
I think
it's a simpler time.
I think if you watched it now, you would definitely say The Crying Game would trump Unforgiven.
A Few Good Men.
Yeah, is that really that good a movie?
There's always that one bit with
you can't handle the truth.
Yeah. That was like, famous.
The one that blew my mind was Al Pacino won Best Actor for Scent of a Woman, which to me was just a caricature. Denzel Washington.
Well, he talks like
Hoo-ah!
hoo-ah
Hoo-ah! And I think it was all because
for being a blind.
because he was
Al Pacino.
blind, right? So he's supposed to be blind. So we laugh when he goes hoo-ah!
Yeah,
But then Denzel Washington, literally to me,
becomes Malcolm X.
literally becomes Malcolm X, and he doesn't even sniff it. And the movie Malcolm X,
It's weird. We should even bring that up because I was talking to some coworkers today. I guess I have to get in here. I had a discussion about Malcolm X. I told them about how our friend, this is the second Tyrell reference
in the
one
episode.
podcast.
Yeah.
He used to have a T-shirt on. It said, "By any means necessary," and it had Malcolm X. I guess probably the window of a hotel or something with a gun in his hand. I don't know if it's based on a real portrait or not, but thereby showing the true threat of an armed African American population.
right?
Anyway, Denzel Washington played that part like really well.
No,
And I don't even like some of the other stuff he's done.
I mean, let's be honest. As much as I respect Daniel Day-Lewis's becoming Abraham Lincoln, Denzel Washington every bit became Malcolm X. Here are the movies that were nominated for Best Picture. Malcolm X was not nominated. Unforgiven, The Crying Game, A Few Good Men, Scent of a Woman, and Howard's End.
Yeah, that was a different time.
Yeah, a time where
We
black
weren't
films
ready.
couldn't even be nominated.
We still weren't ready.
Denzel Washington was nominated for Best Actor, but he lost to Al Pacino doing a caricature. Hooah! Clint Eastwood won Best Director for Unforgiven.
I mean,
It's a good movie. It is a good movie.
I believe that it's good. I'd have to go back and I liked it at the time. Now I look at it through the lens of like all this other stuff he's done. Why the hell?
I'll tell you what lens you look at it through, because of what he did at that.
That plus stupid. That's
The
stupid.
thing with the chair.
Why did people like Sully? It is the stupidest fucking movie
You know how
I've ever
disappointed I was with Sully? Because you know what? There's no movie
Did you?
there.
Were you as disappointed as I was?
Yes.
Jessica and I watched this thing, and over, these guys would say the same fucking thing.
There was
about,
not-
"Oh, we get it. Or, you're a great guy, Sully.
There's not.
You couldn't have done any better." And they kept telling him that shit over and over again. He's riddled. All he did was look down at the floor and self-doubt, and everybody else says, "Yeah, you couldn't have done better."
There's
like-
not enough there
Fuck.
for a film. There wasn't enough there for a film.
It is American Sniper. That wasn't really that great.
Terrible.
So I don't know. Maybe if I go back and revisit that movie, I'll be convinced that he was a good director. I don't know.
I really liked Unforgiven, but I think part of it was that no one had done a great Western in a long time. Okay, we got it. I mean, all this is good, but when I went back and looked at 1993 musically, holy fucking shit! That
know,
might be
man.
our year.
Well,
that
yeah.
might be our fucking year. And before we start talking about it, I want to do something we don't ever do. You know what? I was thinking about this today. This is our 21st episode. I think I may have already played this song in another episode.
Maybe,
But it's so fucking good. This is Allison by Slow Dive from the album Souvlaki, which
Probably
came out
our-
in 1993.
probably our theme song.
Right, here we go.
Listen
All right, that was Allison.
I mean, is that the song we started a band around? I mean, is that?
I mean, pretty much.
The reason we probably started was that.
I was looking at all these records. I think my favorite album of that year, I think that one's second.
Really? I didn't bother to rank these things.
I didn't. I tried not to either. There were too many. I just didn't remember, Henry, that year was that great.
Because just because the record existed didn't mean it was necessarily the best, but it might have been important to me. And all these records really told me a story.
I mean, I'm looking at this list of records and I'm like, this is still. I didn't realize all these records came from this same
year.
That
1 year.
I mean, I still listen to most of these records.
Mm-hmm.
Just to name a few, Exile on Guyville by Liz Phair.
Exile in Guyville, yeah.
Huge record for me.
That is getting, did you read that it's getting re-released? Getting a
25-year re-release.
Treatment. Liz Phair, I'm still hoping you will talk to me on this podcast.
Who's working on her new record?
Ryan Adams.
Ryan Adams. Bjork's album debut came out. Another huge one for me, A Storm in Heaven by The Verve.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So Tonight That I Might See by Mazzy Star. Come on. Are you kidding? That's enough right there. That's
Hope
enough
Sandoval?
for a whole fucking year.
But I'm not even... think about it.
I'm just warming the fuck up.
No, think about all the women that are going to be in this list. They become, in your mind, like untouchable.
Iconic.
They become... who they were becomes untouchable in your mind.
I mean, I
don't know that the kids today could say that.
I didn't even put this on the list, but 1993 Cranberries' first record came out.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That girl. So... But I'm just getting warmed up, okay? Suede's first record, Suede, came out, which I don't know if you remember how controversial that was. It had two guys kissing.
I do
on the
remember
cover.
that, yeah.
I mean, fuck. Henry's, this has got to be, if I listed a soundtrack for Henry's life.
Would it be that?
In the early 90s. If when we die, our graves have permanent music that plays, I'm hoping by the time we die that's part of it.
Yeah.
This is the record I would play for Henry. Gentleman by Afghan Whigs.
It's beautiful. It's sad. You
used to tell me when you would listen to it at the time, and you'd be like, I think the fucking guy is
writing
for me.
For me, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something about that record, man. I don't know what to tell you.
And I'm not done yet. Mescal Head by Swerve Driver came out that year. We're not even talking. We haven't even hit the mainstream records yet. In Utero by Nirvana came out in '93, which I personally think no doubt their best record. 14 Songs by Paul Westerberg, his first quote unquote his first solo record.
Yes.
I think it was his second, but I think it was a great record. Last Splash by the Breeders, Cannonball. Come on. Is there a more recognizable bass line?
There's no way that...
and by the way, I want to give them a shout out. Their new record's not bad at all.
Kim Deal was on Marin.
Oh, I got to hear that.
Not too long ago.
I'd like to hear that. I'm interested.
She's so nice.
Also a record, I feel like I'm remiss if I don't mention this. I didn't catch it the first time around, but apparently it may be one of the greatest all-time records of ever, like all-time ever. The Chronic by Dr. Dre. That music channel on Sirius XM that I told you about last week, the All Talk, they did like an NCAA tournament bracket of records, and the Chronic, I think, won greatest record of all time.
What did you not know about the Chronic?
I didn't know how much it changed the game.
How did it change the game?
I mean, I'm not the guy to talk about this because I don't really know the Chronic. All I know is all the stuff I've heard about it. And then I don't know if you watched that Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre documentary.
I watched the whole thing.
It seemed like the Chronic, they made it out like Dr. Dre did a bunch of genius shit. But honestly, I didn't like the Chronic. Oh my God. At the time, I didn't like the Chronic. I don't know that I've gone back and listened to it.
We were a couple of white boys. I don't know that.
It wasn't
I think we knew about it.
I knew about it, but I felt like it was too mainstream for me. Like I would still give you that argument that Public Enemy was the shit, but I don't know.
Or NWA.
Or Wu-Tang Clan. But is Wu-Tang Clan a white thing?
What we would have said is, Dre was great back when he was in NWA.
Right. What about, I've just recently come to realize Wu-Tang Clan was a white person thing, right?
No. What do you mean?
Like, their legions of fans are mostly white people.
I have no idea.
They're the white hipster rap group.
I don't know. I'd have to talk to a black guy.
Like, if you talk to black people about the Chronic versus
Depends on who you're talking to.
The Wu-Tang Clan album that came out in 93. There's a Wu-Tang Clan album I didn't list that came out in 93. I think your average hipster, I know a lot about music and I know about rap music in 93, would say Wu-Tang Clan was superior. I think your average black person would be like, shut the fuck up, The Chronic. I'm going to play another song. I think we both can agree that we like Liz Phair, right? Quite a bit.
Yeah. I didn't know you were a big fan of her. That's cool.
That's my favorite record of 93. I'm obsessed with that record, but mostly because it was mine and my wife's. We were both obsessed with it.
Good.
So.
I'd love to talk about that.
So this is Divorce Song. It sounds weird to be a couple record, but I'm going to play Divorce Song.
You going to play the girly sound version or the other one?
Which one do you want to hear?
To be like 93 centric, I'd like to hear the Exile version.
That's what I wanted to play too. So here's the version of Divorce Song off of Exile in Guyville.
Separate room. It was late at night, and we've been driving since noon. But if I'd known how that would sound to you, I would have stayed in your bed for the rest of my life, just to prove I was right. That it's harder to be friends than lovers, and you shouldn't try to mix the two. 'Cause if you do it and you're still unhappy, then you know that the problem is you. And it's true that I stole your lighter, and it's also true that I lost the map. But when you said that I wasn't worth talking to, I had to take your word on that. But if you'd known how that would sound to me, you would have taken it back and boxed it up and buried it in the ground. Boxed it up and buried it in the ground. Boxed it up and buried it in the ground. Burned it up and thrown it away. And you put in my hand a loaded gun and then told me not to fire it. When you did the things you said were up to me, and then accused me of trying to fuck it up. But you've never been a waste of my time. It's never been a drag. So take a deep breath and count back from 10, and maybe you'll be alright. And the license said you had to stick around until I was dead. But if you're tired of looking at my face, I guess I already am. But you've never been a waste of my time. It's never been a drag. So take a deep breath and count back from 10, and maybe you'll be alright.
Let's talk about Liz Phair.
Okay.
I know I had the tape, and one of the things I think that I liked so much about it, I don't know that I listened to a lot of music made by women up until that point. It felt approachable to me because it sounded like sort of like the guitars that I had been playing.
I think you did listen to a lot of women. I think what you didn't hear was up front, in your face, female who's actually just very basic, just playing a guitar. It's kind of like a PJ Harvey female Americanized thing. Mm-hmm. But then I think she's bluntly talking about things.
The songs were like Fucking Run.
Breaking up and
stuff
like having
that made
trouble.
Her feel awkward and wrong and weird and conflicted.
Right. But like if you think about it, I can start naming the bands that you listen to female singers. You love the Cocteau Twins, you love the Sundays, you loved Mazzy Star. Yeah, but we've never heard a woman just like, it was so naked sounding.
And that guy who recorded it, I remember I read, this was the time when you read the liner notes and everything.
You used to really get into fucking liner notes and shit.
Yeah.
Like you would, when we lived together, I would come in and be like, I like this record. And then you would be like, oh yeah, it's like the 3rd release this year on Polydor. And I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like that stuff meant something to me.
Well, for me, it was important because I had 4 tapes still in my old Mazda Miata and had a tape player that worked. And it was one of the tapes. When Megan and I started seeing each other, I was living with my brother in Johnson City. I would drive to Charlotte and pick Megan up. And of the 4 tapes, the only one she could stomach, that one.
Right.
So she would put it on, and we would listen to it with the top down in the summertime, and then listen to it on the way back. And it just became like our record. So every time I hear it, I get nostalgic for being
It
that
puts you in
time
that
period.
specific moment. in
Right,
time.
exactly. Which all good music does.
Every time I listen to it, I still feel like there's this naked thing about it that
It feels like-
wasn't fully appreciated without a lot of filter.
It bothers
She talks
me
about
that-
people leaving stuff in the sink. She talks about guys saying stuff and making fun of her. Or there's one song that talks about people making her mad on purpose.
Right. What are some of the other records that came out in
Another one
'93?
that-
I'm
all right.
loving this.
Teenage Fan Club.
This is
13.
This is fucking record.
Now,
is,
I want to talk about the concept. That song, if you listen to it today, is brilliant. The problem with the song in 1993 was the video. They somehow bought into this video that wasn't great, and it hurt your perception of the song. Like we,
Not mine.
We watched at least me. I watched MTV to a degree, right? That this song was on 120 minutes.
wow,
I didn't like it because
you didn't like the video.
I didn't like the video, and so it hurt my perception of the song. I didn't really get to 13 until much later.
Yeah, it sounded like
on
the
it.
first 2 Big Star records.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
It's
In fact, that's how I got to Big Star. I
Really?
knew 13 from Teenage Fan Club prior to Big Star.
I don't remember how I found the Replacements.
Yeah, you found out
Big
the
Star.
replacements.
Matthew Sweet's
Oh my god, I loved that.
best
Oh my
second
god.
record.
Oh my god.
Right. So
Alter Beast. How good is Alter Beast?
it was better than Girlfriend.
Okay, let's keep rolling.
This one was the shit. Okay. Super Chunks on the Mouth. If you listen to Precision Auto today, you will feel like you just did a shot of the adrenaline in your arm.
Yeah. The Grifters, One Sock Missing. Fucking Corolla Hoist. Do you remember the song Corolla Hoist?
Yeah.
We used to just listen to that song over and over and be like, what the fuck? Corolla Hoist is pure fucking holy shit.
I know. We were all about that.
Folks out there, go back and check out some of this music. Obviously, I don't know if you can tell, but music was a big important part of the 90s for Henry and I because that's what we spent most of the time on. Pick a song and then we're gonna
Dude,
leave
how
the
do I
90s.
pick? How do I pick? Let's play something off that Grifters record.
If it's off that record, now my favorite record was Crappin' You Negative, but that record,
One Sock Missing was good.
Corolla Hoist.
All right, let's play Corolla Hoist on this one.
All right, so we're back, and this is our big early 90s extravaganza. And Henry, we really haven't ever had a guest on just the last segment, but we kind of got, I guess, a 90s nostalgia expert.
Where'd you find this guy?
Self-proclaimed. What?
Self-proclaimed?
Well, I've seen him out a lot in clubs. His name's Mitch.
I was growing up all through the 90s as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Right.
It's Mitchell.
Yeah.
It's not Mitch.
Mitchell.
Mitchell, Michelle.
I've called you Mitch out many times, and
You're pronouncing that part wrong. It's Mitch.
So
Mitch Mitchell.
it's
Mitchell, Michelle, guys.
Mitchell Michelle.
Got it?
So I've seen Mitch out a lot, and you've listened to the podcast, right?
I've looked at the pictures that you guys have posted on Facebook.
So you've never
I see.
actually heard.
I'm not sure what the GD stands for,
Right.
but I've seen that part.
Yeah,
see.
a lot of people have that trouble. So anyway, he kept saying he wanted to be on this show, and I kind of felt like we only can have people on if they kind of know about the particular topic we were talking about. And I don't really know what you do. What do you do for a living?
Well, I mean, multiple things. I teach music. I play music.
Right. Have I heard you play music?
Done some landscaping.
Right.
For a while.
Have I seen any of your landscaping work around?
Probably.
Yeah.
If you've passed any of the houses on Commonwealth, most of those were me. Probably at some point were done by me.
Most of Commonwealth.
I'm pretty much most of Commonwealth. Now, I don't, not the Commonwealth that you probably travel on. I'm talking about the other part of Commonwealth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of stuff over in that area.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
That much of that area of
Do
Commonwealth.
you put signs up,
There's
yards
really not a need
by
to do
Mitchell?
that because most people just know my work.
I see.
Okay, so anyway, we kind of actually Henry was trying to put him off.
You guys want to get into the Reagan years?
Well, that's the thing. I told him, I said we were going to do the 90s, and he said he was a 90s nostalgia expert. And he was super
aficionado?
psyched, kind of
I was
way into it.
I was alive for the whole 10 years.
Yeah, so I think most of us were that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But I paid attention. I don't know
to the
that either of you
90s.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
By the way, I didn't realize that this whole podcast was recorded in a bathtub. I didn't know that. Is that an acoustics thing?
Yeah.
So the 90s. We better get. Why don't we talk about the 90s?
Sure.
Well, that was the Reagan years. The 90s.
Which, like Ronald Reagan,
Ronald Reagan
Yeah,
Jr.
Ronald Reagan.
like the president.
I don't remember when he died, but I'm pretty sure he was still around in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I call those the Reagan years.
Okay. Commonly, the 80s are known more like the Reagan year.
Not as far as I remember.
Okay. Well,
I mean, that's some people might say that, but not. It's not what I would say.
obviously
So,
not.
what's your favorite part of the Reagan 90s?
I was real into a lot of the music then.
Yeah. What? We talked about that a little earlier too. We were really worried.
Taco. Taco was great. What was that? Putting on the Ritz song? Wasn't that was in there?
So
I think
That was also the 80s.
that's the 80s?
Are you sure you're not like an 80s guy?
I might be an 80s expert.
Yeah, maybe
but
you're an 80s.
I know that I was.
So give us one thing that you know about or remember about the 90s.
Was that when Bush was around?
There was a Bush around in the 90s, yeah.
What was their song?
Oh, that Bush, yeah. That
Yeah.
Bush was, I think that Bush was around.
There was more than one Bush?
Yes, there was.
That was the Bush years.
Well, oh, good for you. What about television? Did you have any favorite shows? What was your
I watched a lot of court shows.
a lot of court shows? Okay,
Night Court.
I think Night Court was the 80s as well.
Also the 80s.
Yeah.
Can we do the show about the 80s?
We could,
We
but
could do it.
that's not what we're here for.
Okay.
So you told me that night that you were like a big 90s guy. Like that was kind of your wheelhouse. I'm assuming you were like in your 20s.
I still
early
feel like
20s.
I am, but I'm not saying that I know everything about it.
Do you know anything about it?
I know a lot.
Well, give me.
You guys just haven't hit the right questions yet.
Okay, tell me.
I'm kind of waiting for the right questions is all.
Tell me something that's in your wheelhouse that's 90s. It's like, you know.
What's a wheelhouse?
Right. So,
Is that
what you know of your purview?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh God, purview. You think he knows purview
What's
if he
in your
doesn't know
purview?
wheelhouse?
It must be a colloquialism.
Colloquialism. You're gonna. Is that a landscaping term?
Am I going to have to spell anything in the next couple minutes?
What was landscaping? Were you in landscaping in the 90s? Is that
I
what
did. I did a lot of weed eating, some bush trimming, a little bit of maintenance, and I dabbled in irrigation. I spent about a week doing. I
Just watering
I dug
things?
somewhat. I dug some trenches and laid some pipe. I mean, if
There's
that's
a-
what I consider irrigation.
There seems to be a lot of innuendo in your.
And what's weird is none of it is meant to be
None of it
taken
is.
that way, but
Right.
Trimming the bush,
maybe it's.
laying the pipe.
Yeah, irrigating.
Well, those are all
ditches.
90s
Those are kind of 90s
activities.
Sure, of course.
I'm sure they did that on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They
What
talked
about like Seinfeld? Were you a big
When-
Seinfeld fan?
Yeah, I liked some of his stuff.
Yeah.
He was the one. Now, was he neighbors with Ross, or was he? He's the? I can't remember. They were.
Yeah, that was Friends.
Which was the 90s.
That was 90s.
Yeah, so you actually hit
That's
the
what
decade.
see what I'm saying? I do know a lot of stuff about the 90s. You just have to ask the right question.
The right question.
Seems like there's a lot of probing that needs to be done.
Exactly, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, sure. So, is there anything else you'd like to add about the 90s?
Well,
This has really been, you really
Movies.
haven't
What about movies from the 90s?
known anything about
Movies.
the 90s.
was I'm going to say Star Wars? Is that when that started up?
No.
No, that's,
Well, then
That was
it
the
had to have
70s.
been by Empire Strikes Back. We were into the 90s.
yeah, no, we were not anywhere near the 90s with Empire.
Okay. On Golden Pond.
I like the way you are moving up through time. Why don't you keep going and see how far you can go?
Name a movie.
Just keep naming movies and
Yeah.
see.
Let's see. Spaceballs.
Getting closer.
Wrong again.
I think you're right around 88 now. So
I'm almost there.
Dude, can you name a movie from the 90s? How about that? We'll end with that.
All right. I'm gonna say one. I'm pretty sure was in that area.
Okay.
Was
And you are an expert, by the way. You told me you were a
Castaway.
90s Castaway.
A 90s expert.
Yeah, Castaway was definitely not in the 90s.
Nope.
Now, wouldn't a funny ending of that movie have been if when he finally got rescued on the plane, and the plane starts shaking, and he turns to the camera and just goes, "Here we go again." But I thought that would be a fantastic ending.
I
to
think
that.
I think you're right. I want to thank you for I'm not sure what
For that journey through the 90s.
Michelle and
Mitch
Mitchell.
Mitch.
Mitchell.
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 You're saying it wrong. It's Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Mitchell Michelle.
Mitchell Michelle.
Mitchell Michelle.
I don't know how to teach you how to say that properly.
Well, we'll work on it. We'll listen back and work on it. And thanks for.
I'll spell it out phonetically.
Okay.
On my way out here.
That'll be great.
That way, next time you guys can
Yeah.
properly.
I'll
introduce
work
me.
on it.
I hope there's a next time. So thanks a lot for coming in.
Fantastic.
Okay, so that was Mitch. I don't even know what the guy's fucking name was.
Mitch Michelle. Mitchell Michelle.
Mitchell Michelle?
Something. He'll correct us.
That guy, Jesus Christ.
He didn't know shit.
Pestered me for a fucking week to be on the show about the 90s.
1980, the Reagan era 90s?
I don't know.
The fuck was that?
Well,
Do we even get to have guests anymore?
I don't know. That was brutal. I want to bring some sanity back. I know we don't have a lot of time. I think me and you went a little crazy on the 90s music. Anybody that doesn't know, that was our wheelhouse.
Yep.
Henry?
We ain't got no goddamn
We don't
band,
need no
Chris.
fancy words. I mean, we need to practice. We need to rehearse.
I'll tell you what we need. We need some paying gigs. We don't need this messing around, first one patio and then another, and that's ridiculous.